I'll fit the retard gear train. I've flushed that with Naphtha. It's been through the ultrasonic cleaner in Naphtha. I've lubricated it with a bit of graphite powder, and I'm expecting it to behave. However, we shall see. I can get the thing seated. Alright, let's see what happens. Absolutely nothing. Nothing is moving. Something is not right. The shutter is open. The speed train is not moving. Nothing else is moving. Let's cock that shutter again. No, that retard gear train appears to be completely locked up. I don't know why that should be. Well, the lever at the end here is certainly bent over. Of course, the shutter didn't function before we started, so it's anyone's guess what abuse it suffered as people twisted dials and pulled on levers in order to attempt to make it go. That lever there is at a funny angle. And the shutter itself certainly works. Speed train is the problem. And it interacts with the shutter with this point here. And since I know that lever is at an angle there, that lever there is suspect. Alright. Let's see if we can pop it back in and have a look at that position of that lever. See if that appears to have any bearing on it. there are two screws. This one part way along the length is the pivot for practical purposes. You can adjust the position of the speed train slightly in or out on the other screw typically to get some adjustment of the speeds. See if anything is any better. No, it's still the same. It's not even making an attempt to release. Which means something is blocking the action. Here, look at that. That was interesting. Alright. Well, what are my possibilities? I wonder if that's not the right screw. It looks like the right screw. Could it be fouling something? Got a much smaller, shorter screw rather there that is for doing the retard, the self-timer, but I can probably fit that temporarily and see how this functions. Well, that's certainly the answer. That screw is fouling something in the mechanism. When the screw's not present, we don't have a problem. I've got a shorter screw in there at the moment, and that works fine. That was the screw that came out. Mysteries, mysteries, mysteries. Well, a lot of water's passed under the bridge since you last saw the shutter in this state. The slow speed train, the retard gear train, that works fine. I couldn't get the delay action or self timer to work, but there were a couple of reasons for that. One was that a spring was disconnected from where it needed to be, and it may even have been that the speed train was not correctly assembled. However, let's have a look now. No, it's not working. It was working a second ago. Back later. Perhaps I wasn't holding my mouth right. here we go. So it looks like I've succeeded. But the proof of the pudding will be in the eating, no doubt. So the shutter's back together. Everything appears to function. I haven't tried it with the speed cam on the front to see what the speeds are like, but I'm reasonably confident it's going to go. But it's 5:05 on a Friday afternoon, and that's well past beer o'clock, so that's it for now. Well, getting back to this camera, we need to put the speed control ring on the front next. First, I just want to check and make sure that I have all the screws tightened up. It should be tightened up in the shutter because I'm about to close this thing up. That looks good. A bit of molybdenum paste, I believe. A couple of areas I really want to attend to. One is on that little tab there. That needs to be able to come back under that little spring-loaded tab and pick it up each time. Where else? On this arm here, where the speed, where the main drive cam contacts that. On that outside surface. That will probably do. On the speed cam, I just need to run some molybdenum paste down where those little detents are there for the speed settings. On the speed setting cam there, in the centre, and on those tracks, and we should be good to go. Getting this in position. There's my detent. My detent is over here. Making sure that I have my speed cam is not trapped in here. That's better. The detent. Where's my detent? There it is. Can I press that into position? Right. The detent's correctly placed now. We have our front ring. It's a bit stained and dirty looking. I'll see if I can get that cleaner. I think it's mostly paint loss in the engraved markings there more than anything else. Oh, there is some dirt there that's coming off. That's good. That's the depth of field scale, of course, there. Alright, that looks good. I bet you saw none of that. Never mind. Onwards and upwards. This plate has two little slots in it that are located on pins in the shutter here and here. That's it, just got those click into place. And now the retainer ring, which gave us so much trouble getting it off. I'm pleased to see it's behaving itself now. I'm just checking the action to make sure it's not too tight. There's a lot of rattle there, so it's certainly not too tight. There's still a little bit too much play for my liking. That moves smoothly, but there's no play or rattle, so I will lock that, rotate that locking screw. And that's the front of the shutter closed up. If I cock the shutter, it's cocked. I set it to an 1/8, so an 1/8 is the good speed. Let's see what we get. That sounds very good. Well, I can go and test that and then come back and probably mount that shutter back on the front of that plate, I would think. There were some shim rings that needed to go back in place. I'll just clean these. One of them is the contact for the electronic flash, the other two are simply shims. Okay. These two shims can go on here first. Now this piece. I see, went on there. This is intended to touch the back of that flash contact, I think. That would make sense because it means that the cutout is right here. And what locates that? Oh yes, there was a little plate there which I haven't put back. Let's just remove that again for the moment. And our shims. And there was a little locator plate that went there, which is here. And likewise that'll need a little bit of cleaning. And its screws. And that plate must have fitted like that. Magnetic screwdriver, I'll go and deal with that. Okay, a trip to the demagnetizer. That sorted that screwdriver out and that screwdriver. That's good. Nothing worse than screwdrivers being magnetic when you don't want them to be. Get that screw started, get its mate started, that's better, and tighten those two up. Now to fit the shim. Their flash contact, get these shims positioned correctly, their flash contact positioned correctly, and they sit just either side of those screw heads there, so they're located. And at that stage, that shutter can probably be mounted back to the front of the camera. This is the finger that releases the shutter. It will pop the shutter in position. Oops, that finger's on the wrong side. That's better. Now we had this shield that went on the top. And then this piece here, which retained it all. I think for ease of servicing, it would make sense to clean and refit the rear lens group at this point. So I'll pop those pieces to one side, pop the shutter to one side, bring in the lens. This is the rear lens component, the front lens component, and the front focus scale ring from the front. They all look pretty crusty. Just having a look at these, that's covered in ant residue. The lenses don't look much better. I'm going to give them a squirt with kitchen cleaner and then come back and see if I can clean those up. Okay, well the rear lens group has been cleaned of all the ant detritus. So I'll clean the glass carefully with some glass cleaner. Inside and out. The black paint I see is lifting on the inside of that lens mount. I'm just inspecting that. It looks very good. So our shutter. Make sure that anything in contaminants are blown off the back there. And I'll set this to be at f2.8 to open the shutter up. So I can see that rear lens, the back of the centre lens group. Make sure there's no dust on that. Put in the rear lens group. Well, the rear lens element would be fairer to say because this is a triplet. I'll use a friction tool to tighten that slightly. That's all that's required. Don't need to go crazy doing up lenses. Pop this into the mount. Make sure I've got my shutter release in the correct position. Make sure the shutter's centered. I'll just drop that little bush in there for the moment. It's not going to be fixed. The baffle goes in. And the retaining ring. The retaining ring that gave me so much grief trying to get this thing apart. Let's run down. I'll find a lens spanner and tighten that up, but I won't be overdoing it like the last person.